Today, I'm going to be showing you how you can build completely automated faceless shorts that will generate you thousands of views. This is a huge trend right now, if you couldn't tell. And of course, in this video, we're going to be building the system out and add it on. So if we come into our workflow, you can see that it does look like a pretty complex system. We have a few different things right here. So generating image, generating video, render and upload. But don't worry, because we're going to be doing this all step by step. I'm going to be showing you how you can do all of this yourself and walking you through it. Before we do that, I wanted to show you what we're starting off with and diving into each node. So right away, we have the Google Sheets node. We're not going to worry about the schedule trigger. I'll get into that in a second. So this Google Sheets, if I come over here, we have a sheet just called Faceless POV. I already have some stuff in here. We have the ID, caption, production, environment prompt, publishing, and then the final output. So for one of these ideas, we're going to look at POV. You are Abraham Lincoln writing the Gettysburg Address. So the caption is going to say one speech to unite a nation. So this is what's going to go on your actual caption of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, production, completed, whatever, or in progress. Then here is where we have the environment prompt. And this is, pretty much the examples or descriptions, I should say. And then we just have the publishing saying ready to post. So I'm actually going to open this up and show you guys what it looks like really quick. So it just says dipping quill into an inkwell, here audio in the background, smoothing parchment on a wooden desk, and so on. So we're not going to spend too much time on that. So it's about 30 to 40 seconds. So what we're doing is we're taking all these ideas and we're passing it into Google Sheets. So what we have next is an image prompt generator. So what we're saying here is we're basically having this try to generate all these different little sections for us. So the first one is going to be the text of dipping the quill into an inkwell. Now, if I expand this table, we will see smoothing parchment on a wooden desk, scratching words across paper by candlelight, and we can move on. Next up, we're actually going to be generating images for all of this. So we're taking all these texts and we're passing this into ChatGPT. What we're saying is you're an advanced prompt generation AI specializing in expanding short form POVs. I'm not going to dive into this too much because I will show you guys and allow you guys to be able to copy this and put it into your own workflow. So no worries, because we will dive into this later. So this is just going to be super brief. But anyways, you can see the end result is first person view, POV GoPro shot of my ink smudged fingers gripping a delicate feathered quill as I slowly lower it into a deep dark inkwell. So super specific, and it does sound a little bit weird, but this is what's going to actually generate the images and everything for us. So image prompt generator, then the generate images. Next up, we're just going to be passing this into Pi API or Yappy. I'm not exactly sure how to say it properly. Hopefully I'm saying it right, but in any case, we're just taking all of this and trying to get it to generate some images for us. So if I open up Pi API, we can see down here where we are using Midjourney. So Pi API is just a platform that's allowing us to make all these calls to these different APIs all in just one software. So we don't have to connect to different ones, more specifically like Midjourney, Flux, and Kling, because we're going to be using a couple different ones from this video. So may as well just make it as easy as possible and use one software that does it all for us. So we're making this HTTP request to generate the image. We're going to wait a little while, then actually collect that image that it generates. Now, what we want to do is we're making some more API requests. This time we're using Kling, where it's going to generate a video based off of the images that we created. From there, it will just actually get the video again once it's finished generating. Then it'll generate some audio. So I know I'm skipping past a lot of stuff, but that's because we are going to be building this out step by step. So no worries. We'll generate the audio here, upload it to Google Drive, combine everything together, render it, create the video using Creatomate. Creatomate is just a place where we're allowed to, basically create a template of something and then have our videos follow that specific structure, follow that specific template. Again, we're going to be showing you how to do that later. So once we create that video, we're then going to upload this into Google Sheets, and then we can upload it into YouTube. So I have actually deleted this node for the time being because I didn't want to run YouTube, but normally you would just have upload a video and you can just upload this right away yourself. Also, we can do a Instagram. If you'd like to post it on Instagram, all you have to do is just call the API request. You will have to use HTTP requests. I will specify that, but we're going to disable this for the time being. And then it will just show us this table. So all these publishings are ready to post now. It's going to post the link. And again, this is what it really looks like when we open it up. Okay. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that again because I've already shown the video. So building this out step by step, first thing we're going to be doing is we have to actually generate all these different ideas. So I'm going to create a brand new sheet. I've already listed out some of the different things. So like idea, ID, caption, production, environment, prompt, publishing, and final output. So the first thing, just create your Google Sheet or Airtable, whichever you want to use, and set it up like this. Now we're going to go into my Google Docs. We're going to copy this prompt and I'm going to paste it into ChatGPT. So I'm going to be saying, give me X ideas, or I actually have to change this really quick. So we will want to say, we'll say 2 different ideas. So in these quotes is where you're going to be inserting whatever you want. So if you want to do 10 different ideas and you want it to be, instead of famous people in history, such as Genghis Khan, you can make it say Abraham Lincoln, or even change it to be not just famous people. Maybe you can make it say scientists or whatever else. But in any case, it's going to say your output should always be in table format. You are an AI designed to generate viral POV videos and ideas structured in table format. Your output should always follow this structure. Here's where we are providing the columns. So the ID, idea, caption, production, environment, prompt, publishing. So we're always going to have this start off as pending. In the guidelines, we're going to have the ID start at 1 and increment by 1 for each different row. The idea must start with POV and describe an immersive, engaging, and potentially viral experience based on the user's theme or prompt. The caption should be a short, eye-catching text optimized for virality. Production is always set to for production. The environment prompt is a concise, max 20-word description of the scene, time period, class, status, or job. And this always talks about whether the person whose POV you're seeing is rich or poor. Publishing is always pending. As I say that 10 different times. As I always say, example outputs are some of the most important things that you can be doing inside of your prompting. So make sure you have an example output, and we're just providing some examples right here. So POV, you're a father walking the Oregon Trail in the 1800s. POV caption for production, and so on. So we're just outputting it or giving an example of how we want the output to be. So if we go back into GPT, we can see we have a bunch of different ones. So POV, your Genghis Khan united the Mongol tribes for conquest. Here's the caption: one man, one empire, a world forever changed. Or we have an idea of POV, your Napoleon Bonaparte planning the Battle of Austerlitz, the mind of a master strategist at war. Then we have your Queen Victoria witnessing the height of the British Empire. So some pretty cool stuff. We are then going to copy all of this and we're just going to paste this into our sheet. So I'm going to expand some of this a little bit, expand the caption, production, environment. Now we have to get this final output, of course. So the first thing that we're actually going to start doing, I'm going to go back into N8N. We're just going to start a brand new workflow. So we're going to do a Google Sheets node, or actually won't be a tool, it will be a node instead. So we'll close that out. We'll try that again. We'll do Google Sheets. So to do this out step by step, we're going to go back to N8N. We're going to create a brand new workflow and start from scratch. So I'm going to do trigger manually. You could also run this on a schedule. So you could use a schedule trigger, and you can have this start whenever you would like. If you would like it to run at midnight, or maybe you want it to run at 6 in the morning, so be it. We are going to leave this here, but we are going to connect this to a Google Sheets node. And all we want to do is try to get access to all these different ideas. So we have this called Faceless POV, and this is Sheets 2. Now, if we go to get rows and sheet, we do the document. Make sure you just connect your account properly. Go to Faceless POV, and we're going to find the sheet. If you don't know how to connect your credentials, such as Google Sheets, check out some of my previous videos showing you how you can actually connect your Google credentials to N8N. It takes about 5 minutes. All you have to do is just find the video, because I'm not going to go in depth how you can actually do this. So before we move on, I actually forgot a couple steps. So we do have to include filters and add another option after that. So first, we're going to add a filter of production. So we're going to make sure we're only grabbing the ones that are going to be for production. If anything's finished, we want to make sure that we're not going to be grabbing that. So we'll grab production, and the value is just going to be for production. And you could change this to whatever you would like it to be for yourself. Now for the returning of only the first matching row, this is just making sure that we're going to be grabbing one row after the other. So now if we test this out, we will see what we get. First thing is POV, your Genghis Khan. So the ID, let's just make sure that this matches up with our Google Sheet. Okay, so ID right here, it's matching up with Genghis Khan. Okay, everything's looking great. Next up, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting a basic LLM chain. So this basic LLM chain, it's just going to allow us to actually generate a image or a prompt image, I should say. So I already have something written out here. Again, if you want to get access to this exact prompt, then you can get it in my community. Link is down below. What we were saying is you are an advanced prompt generation AI specializing in crafting highly detailed and hyper-realistic scenes. Your output never includes double quotes. Don't output actions related to wearing clothing. Don't output actions related to using feet. You also prioritize more sensational and unique scenes for that given scenario instead of common or mundane ones. Then I give it some guidelines like use keywords such as POV, GoPro style, first person view, or POV to reinforce immersion. And then I'm giving it some different examples. So here's a topic: an explorer's journey in ancient Amazon, slashing through dense jungle vines, crossing a rickety wooden rope bridge, spotting a rare, colorful bird on a branch, carving a symbol into a mossy stone, and so on. You really get the idea. Then we have topic of a pirate's day at sea, a scientist's breakthrough, discovery, general actions across themes, whatever. Final notes: always generate ideas tailored to the user's requested theme while ensuring the format is strictly maintained. Everything else, feel free to just pause the video, copy, or get this document in my community. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find the advanced AI. I'm going to go to basic LLM chain. Now, what we have to do is we have to define below. Defining below is going to allow us to grab this idea and drag it into here, because we have to give this prompt access to our ideas. So I'm just going to label this ideas. Now, if we enable this require specific output format, I'll show you why we need that in a second. We're also going to add a prompt, and we're going to just paste in this expression, or it's going to be the prompt rather. Lastly, we will have to connect the model. So we will do OpenAI. Let's do GPT-4o. Okay, grab that. And we will include output parser. Previously, if we didn't enable this button, then output parser is not going to be an option, as you can imagine. Options, let's just do the number of items. Let's do 5 different items. I think that should be fine. And let's try running this and see what we get. Could take just a second. Instantly ran. So riding a galloping horse across the steep, drawing a bowstring back with a swift motion, meeting tribal leaders by a roaring campfire, map sketching conquest routes with a wooden stick, charging into battle with a raised sword. For the time being, let's actually lower this just for sake of the demo, so everything runs a little bit quicker. Let's do 3 different items. Now let's try running this again. Now what we're going to be doing is we actually want to generate this image. So if I open this up, now what we're going to be doing is we're going to generate an image. We will be doing that with another AI prompt. So if I go back to OpenAI, we will try to find, let's just search it. We're just going to message a model. We'll just do 4o again. Okay, right there. In this prompt, we are going to be grabbing this right here. This will be the last prompt that you need. What it's saying is you are an advanced prompt generation AI specializing in expanding short POV image prompt ideas into detailed, hyper-realistic prompts optimized for image generation models like Flux and Midjourney. Your task is to take a brief input and transform it into a rich, cinematic, immersive prompt that strictly adheres to a first-person perspective, making the viewer feel as if they are physically present in the scene. Here's the prompt input and structure. Short prompts to expand. I'll get into this in a second. We're just going to have to map this stuff in here manually. Prompt structure guidelines. Here's the foreground. Here's the background. So for the foreground, we can say describe the hands, limbs, or feet of the viewer. It must start with first-person view, POV, GoPro shot of relevant limb. Describe the scenery, must start with in the background, and so on. And then I provided some more important guidelines, example inputs and outputs. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy this once again, go back to N8N, paste the prompt, we'll change this to expression. Now, if we open this, we will have to change this response right here. So we're going to drag and drop this basic LLM chain. And then this is already mapped properly, so you're not going to have to change anything if you're going to just copy and paste this. But what we're doing is we're just grabbing the environment prompt from our Google Sheets right here. So that's the same as just dragging this over. Now, everything else looks good. Let's make sure. And now let's test this up and see what happens. Okay, now we have 3 different outputs. First is first-person view, POV GoPro shot of my gloved hands gripping a sturdy wooden banner pole, muscles straining against the gusting winds of the steep, fingertips numb from the cold as I plant the heavy flag into the frosty earth. In the background, the expansive 12th century Mongolian steppe stretches infinitely under a vast sky, dotted with fellow warriors on horseback, their silhouettes blurred by swirling dust, the distant thundering of hooves blending with the howling wind, and the scent of trampled grass filling the crisp air. So you can see how descriptive and how vivid all of these different outputs actually are. And what this is going to be doing, if we provide this into some sort of image generator, it's going to be pretty crazy. And later, we of course will be providing that image and turning it into a video. So let's do this step by step. And now let's actually make an HTTP request. And we're going to be calling what I was describing earlier, Pi API. before we kind of get into that, let's make sure we're setting up an HTTP request. Let's do a post, and we're just going to type out the URL. So I'm going to save yourself the time of having to go into the API documentation of Pi API and find out what calls you have to make yourself. By the way, I would probably add like about $5 just for testing, or maybe $2 for testing, just to see and make sure that you can do everything properly. And making, it'll take a little bit to get your feet wet. So I would recommend sign up for Pi API, put about $5 on your account. But in any case, let's go to the URL, make sure the method is going to be post, because we're going to be posting something, not grabbing anything just yet. So we're going to do HTTPS api.pyapi.ai/API/v1/task. Now we will enable a couple different things. First being the headers, second is the body. Within the headers, we're going to do X API key. This is where we're obviously going to be put in our API key. Down below, if we change this to raw, we're just going to be putting application/JSON. And in the body is where we're going to be putting whatever we may have to. So I have this in my community where you could download exactly what you need to say. But essentially, let's make sure that we try to do this again, because this isn't proper JSON. Let's paste it in again. So the model, we're going to be using Quebico, Flux1 developer, task type is text to image, and then here's the input. So this is where we're going to be inputting the prompt image, or the prompt I should just be saying. So we just grab this from here. It's literally just as simple as dragging and dropping. So I'm going to back that out. The width is going to be 540, height 960. So this is just making sure that it's going to be adhering to all the different short form platforms. Okay, now we're going to be backing out of this. And the only other thing we will need is our API key. So how you can get that. So if you go into your settings, so I will have to go, I'm actually already on the setting. So I'm going to go back into workspace. Now, if we go to Flux, we'll just want to copy our API key. So it really depends whatever platform you're using. I believe all of these would actually be the same API. So Wang, Skyreels, Luma, they're all going to be using the same API. So I'm going to paste mine in. It's okay if you guys see my API key, because I'm going to reset it after this anyways. So I'm going to copy this. Now let's go to our workflow. Now let's actually try testing this out. So we can see here that the status is immediately pending. So it's going to take just a little bit for this to actually run. And, we'll want to wait, I don't know, maybe a few minutes before we actually make the requests to get this image and see what it looks like. But that would be the next step, is just seeing what the image looks like. So normally you would want to add a wait node to bypass that. So you could do like 3 minutes maybe. I think 3 minutes would probably be fine. But instead of doing all that, I'm going to remove this for the time being. And I'm just going to connect to the next node for sake of the demo, because I do not want to wait that time, even though it's going to take that anyways. But with the magic of video editing, I'll be able to skip ahead. So let's do the method of get. And this is going to be grabbing the image. We will pretty much be doing the same thing. So actually we could just copy and paste it. We'll grab this URL, paste it into here. Now, everything else is pretty much the same, except we don't have to include headers, or body. We will have to include the headers, which is just going to be our API key again. So we will do X API-key, and we can just paste in our API key once again. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this into here. Okay, everything else looks good. Now let's just try testing this out, and let's see what we get. Actually, we will have to input. So you will do a backslash, and then we're going to do the task ID. So drag that over. Now let's try testing this out, and let's see if it's finished. Okay, so bad request failed to find the task. So that means it's probably not finished, and I will get back to you once it is actually finished generating. Okay, it just finished generating. We know that it's finished because the status says completed, as you can clearly see right here. But in any case, if we want to, we could go down here, we could grab this image URL, and we could actually just paste this into our browser, and we can see what it looks like. So that's pretty cool. It just generated this image for us using Flux. So here's the banner and the flag that I was describing with all these different warriors in the background. So pretty awesome. You can see how descriptive it is. He's wearing gloves. He has the exact jacket that we were describing, and so on. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we actually want to generate a video from this. So turning this image into a video. So we will be using, again, Pi API for this. So let's just drag down here. Let's do an HTTP request. Feel free to rename these as you want to make sure that you're just keeping everything concise and organized, making sure you're not getting confused with anything else. So for the URL, we could actually just paste one of these previous ones. So I'm going to duplicate this actually, just to make it easier on myself and yourself as well. So for the method, we're going to be doing post. We could have the URL being the exact same. API key can be the same. The only thing that's going to be changing is the body. So I'm going to grab a body over here. I'm gonna paste this in. So feel free to pause this video. This is going to be the JSON that we have to input to make a call to Cling. And Cling, it's another software or another really model within PyAPI. So feel free to research Cling API or Cling AI, I believe it's called, for yourself. But it's just another model within here. You can see right here, there's different models that you can use. Winx, Skyreels, Luma, Haluo. I'm not going to try to pronounce these. We're going to be using Cling. So we can see I already have some past executions. So about each usage, it's about 26 cents. So nothing too crazy. But if you are doing this at scale, it will be a bit expensive, which is why I mentioned you should be having about $2, $5 on your account. So let's go back into here. Again, pause this video. Feel free to copy what I'm writing here. But the model is going to be Cling. The node is going to be standard. And this means we can change it to Pro, or we can have it be standard. Let's actually change it to Pro because I've already shown you guys what it looks like with standard. And this is just going to be a better version. So it's going to be more expensive though, as you could probably imagine, because it's going to be better. It's going to take longer. For the task type, we're going to do video generation. The prompt, we will just be dragging in the data input prompt from earlier. So I just typed JSON data input prompt. We will find that from, if we go, let's scroll down a little bit right here. We're just dragging and dropping that right there. Image URL, you will find right here, drag and drop that right there. Everything else can just be pretty much 0. Besides that, everything else looks good. Let's try running this. So the status, of course, is going to be pending. It's going to take a while for this to generate, but if we come into PyAPI, if we go to our task history, we can see that it's processing those 3 different videos. So remember, we have 3 different outputs because we described right here that we want 3 different items. So it's going to be running these first 3. So Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Queen Victoria. It's going to run all those different outputs. I probably shouldn't have done 3 because we only need 1 for this demo. But in any case, what you will have to do after this is you're just going to have to input a wait node. So this wait node, maybe you would want to do around 10 minutes or so. I think 10 minutes would probably be fine for something like this Pro version. If it's standard, maybe it would be 5 minutes. I would periodically check if these are going to be completed to allow yourself to really determine how long it actually takes. So for the time being, let's just do 10 minutes. But again, I'm not going to connect this and I'll just cut out to when it's actually finished generating and come back to you guys. But before we do that, let's make sure we're setting up the next node to actually get the video. So let's make sure we're setting up everything properly. We'll do a method of get once again, but this time the URL, we're going to make it be similar to the last get image. So we'll call this, let's just clean up a little bit. Get image, create video. What we're going to be changing is actually nothing. So all we need to do is we actually have to input the JSON URL or the previous task ID. So you can get that again from just dragging this over. Put that task ID right there. Everything else can stay the same if you are duplicating this. So the API key, it's not going to change. We will not have to have a body because we're not having this create anything. But in any case, let's try testing this out. Let's just see if we can get anything. So we can see that the status is still processing. So I will come back to you guys once this is finished generating. Okay, well, this just finished generating. It took about 6 minutes, 7 minutes maybe. If we scroll down, we will see the video URL right here. So let's just go ahead and see quickly what this looks like. So it's actually going to make me download it because it is an MP4. So it's an MP4, but if we press play, we can see that it's literally just the image, but in video form. So pretty cool. You can see him waving a flag. In any case, let's move on to the next step. Let's go back to the workflow. Now what we have to do is we want to generate some sort of audio for this. So as you might have guessed, we're going to be using 11 Labs to be creating the audio for us. So we're going to be doing another HTTP request. Don't worry, we don't have many more HTTP requests to do. This may be the last one. So if we do a post request, I'm just going to paste in the URL, or actually that is the previous one. Let's grab the new one. So the API, it's going to be api.11labs.io/v1/sound-generation. We're going to enable the headers. We're going to enable the send body. For the headers, we're going to do x-API-key. API key, we'll add that later. And then for the body content type, we'll just change this to raw once again. And I am similarly going to copy this over from earlier. Content type, let's make sure we do application/JSON before we do anything further. So let's paste in the body. So for some reason, this is coming up red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this. We will have to actually input a different expression. So we're going to try this one instead. So we're going to include this first right here. Now, what this is going to do is allow us to reference something from earlier on. Within N8N, it's very frustrating. Sometimes it doesn't allow us to reference earlier nodes. It doesn't allow us to map them properly. So Our workaround is adding this dot first. And yeah, so I would just copy this if you're having a similar issue. What we're going to do is we just have to go to 11 labs. So I'm going to open up a new tab. I'm going to find 11 labs, sign up for an account. You will have to use the paid plan. Unfortunately, it's about $5 a month. So it's super cheap, and you will have to grab an API key. So go to your API keys. I'm going to copy mine. So feel free to steal my API key. I'll just create a new one after this anyway, so it won't work. I'll copy this to the clipboard. We're going to paste this in. And in a second, we should have audio clips. Let's make sure the method is post. Everything else looks good. Now let's try running the step. Okay, well, it's just finished generating. Now we can have it's just finished generating. If we go to binary, we can see we have a few different outputs. Clearly, you can hear them fighting in the background. If we go back to the list, let's see what number 2 is. Sounds like horses stomping. Hopefully you guys can hear my internal audio, but let's just go ahead and move on to the next step, which is actually be uploading this into a Google Drive. Now, we want to be able to later reference this, be able to easily upload this onto YouTube. So the easiest way to do that and storing this somewhere is just doing through Google Drive. So the first thing, go to G Drive, and we're going to upload file. Now for the upload file, all we really do is we want to input some sort of file name. We don't really have to type anything else because it's automatically going to take the input data field from the previous node. It's just referred to as data. Simple enough. So what we will do, we'll go to schema and let's just call this file name. Let's do like task ID.mp3, and we can store this really wherever we would like. So I'm going to test this out. It's going to store that. Okay, that just finished. So if I open up my Google Drive, we should then see it. Well, let's make sure we want to share different permissions. So let's go to Google Drive, share file right here. Let's just choose the specific file. Let's actually do from ID. So we'll go to expression, grab the ID. We'll just paste that right there. We'll change the role. So if we go to permissions, we'll change the role to writer, and the type is just going to be anyone, and we will allow file discovery. So that's just going to make sure that we'll be able to write it later on. In any case, let's move on to the next step, which is going to be actually merging all of this stuff together. So we just want to combine and mesh everything. So why we want to do that is because, we have different things. So what we're going to be doing next is we're just going to be merging everything together. So if this isn't making sense, then just stick with me. I promise it will in the end. So we're going to choose the merge node. Let's do combine by position, and we're going to do 4 different inputs. So the first input, it is going to be the image prompt generator. So that's going to be this basic LLM chain right here. So we'll connect that. We'll actually disconnect this right here, and that can be a different input. So the next input, we're going to be grabbing the get video. Choose that as the second input. The next one is going to be this G drive right here, input 3, and input 4 as well will be the following one. Okay, so we will go to try testing this out, and I'll show you why we actually did that. So we see right here, everything is now combined if we go to the schema. So if we open this up, we can see that everything is, let's go back to the table. So we can see the response. The text is planting a banner in the windswept step, gripping reins tightly as horses gallops, holding a sword aloft, railing tribes under the sky. So it's just combining all those different little sequences into one so that it's all neatly there for us. Next up, what we want to do is we want to add a code node. So we're going to be running this code, and I'm just going to be copying from somewhere else, and I'm going to be pasting this in. I advise you do the same. So just pause the video right here, copy exactly what I'm writing, and I'm going to try running this. So for some reason, we're not getting any data. So we can see right here, there's no output data being returned. So we will have to fix that. Let's try running this step again. Now let's try running the code node. So let's generate this. And we can see we're basically just organizing everything together. So we have the scene titles, the video URLs, and we also have sound URLs, which is exactly what we are looking for. Next up, after this code node, we are going to be using one more software. We're going to be using Create-O-Mate. So once again, you probably guessed it, open up an HTTP request. Within this HTTP request, we're going to be doing a post once again, and we're going to be referencing Create-O-Mate, as I said. So I'm going to just paste in this URL. So this is the API endpoint for Create-O-Mate, HTTPS api.createomate.com/v1/renders. So again, just copy what I'm writing. We're going to enable the headers. We're going to be enabling the body as well. For the headers, we could just type out authorization, and we could do the value for bearer. It's always going to be bearer after an authorization. For the body, we'll be choosing raw application/JSON. We'll type out after this. Okay, now for the body, I'm going to be placing something in. So I'm going to change this to expression. Actually, we'll want to redo that. Okay. Now, everything will be totally fine here. So we'll have up to 5 different audio sources, 5 different video sources, and 5 different text sources. So it doesn't matter if we only have 3 different scenes or 4 different scenes, it's still going to work. If we have anything more than that, then it's not going to be working because we're only going to be creating 5 different sources right here. So if you want to include 6 or 10, then all you have to do is just add that yourself. Next up, before we do anything else, let's go to Create-O-Mate, sign up for an account. Once you sign up for your account, you will want to go to up at the top. You'll want to go to project settings. We're going to be grabbing my API key. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste that in. Now we will have to change this template ID. So let's go back to Create-O-Mate and let's go to templates. And I already have a template created. So you're going to want to create one yourself, but what's going to be super easy for you is I'm going to allow you access to my source editor. So I'm going to copy this and I'll put this in my community. And what the source editor is going to be doing, it's just going to generate you this, exactly what I have right here. If you don't want to do that, then all you have to do is you have to generate all these different texts. So do text 1 through 5, have this be about 30 seconds, video 1 through 5, audio 1 through 5. Then from here, you can actually go to use template, go to API integration, and we're going to copy this template ID right here. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go back to Create-O-Mate. I'm going to paste this in. So I believe this is already the same one, so it doesn't really matter, but yeah, it's the exact same one. But in any case, let's go test this out and make sure that it actually works. And I will show you guys what we are looking at. So let's go to the URL. Let's open this. Okay, so it's still generating, so it's going to take just a second. So I'll come back to you guys once this is actually finished rendering and processing. Well, it's been about a minute, so let's go back to Create-O-Mate. We're going to enter this URL. And we can see planting a banner in the windswept steep. And you could change if you want this caption to be black or if you want it to be something else. All you have to do is just edit your template and it's going to be as simple as that. So if we go back here, so we only included a few different reels, so it's not going to be that expansive, but you get the idea. And yeah, I really just wanted to show you guys this because this is a super new trend. But before we actually finish up, let's just make sure we're uploading this back into Google Sheets. So if we go to Sheets, we go to update row and sheet. We'll just find our Google Sheet. So it's Faceless POV and it's going to be Sheets 2. We'll want to map each column manually. So if we go to the ID, we'll just find Google Sheets. We're gonna grab the ID. It'll probably be red. Yeah, okay. So if it's red, we're just going to be doing the same trick that I showed you earlier, which is just inputting Google Sheets, inputting a first right here to make sure that we can actually reference way back earlier on. For production, we'll just do completed. Final output, we could just do the video URL, which we will get from right here. So let's test that. Let's make sure that this is going to be in Google Sheets properly. So the publishing, we will have to make sure that this is actually finished, but we just have to tweak one more thing. But here is the final output. So now we have the link to our reel that I was showing you earlier, our TikTok, whatever you want to call it. And we could be doing this for all these different ones. So I'm pretty interested to see what it would come up with for all these ones. But anyways, last thing we're going to be doing is we're just going to be uploading this to YouTube. So I'm not going to be doing it myself, but if you were to want to upload this to YouTube, you would just go to upload, click on this, and we don't even have to include this binary field. It's going to upload all of this automatically for us. You could just change the title, whatever else it be. If you want to connect this to Instagram or TikTok, whatever it may be, you will have to do HTTP requests, at least for Instagram. I'm not too sure if it's possible automatically uploading to TikTok. I don't think their API allows for it, but in any case, like I mentioned, if you want to get the template for this entire thing, you could get it in my community. Link is down below in the description. But yeah, that's it for this video. And if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.